Hello and welcome to The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library. I'm Morgan.
And I'm Emery.
And it's Pride Month. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy June to everybody. And happy upcoming Juneteenth as well, a wonderful new holiday that we are finally celebrating appropriately. And we are in the middle of summer reading.
We are right in the big giant upswing of summer reading right now.
It is going so well because as of the time of this recording, we've not even broken 2 weeks yet, but yesterday we broke over 400 registrants.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, I knew it was going to come back big doing it in person, for the first time since the global panini, but I didn't know it was going to come back that big. So.
Yeah, no, we had talked about how programming attendance had kind of been trickling back up to prior numbers, but it was going to take a while. And then it just sort of happened all at once.
Absolutely.
Because we had like 70 people or so come in for Miss September's cruise through the library. And then we had, toddler time has been...
It's been taking off, absolutely taking off.
She's planning to do 2 sessions now, it's official. I don't know when that's going to start, but she is planning on doing 2 sessions for sure.
She needs it at this point.
Yeah, she's going to do, I think, a 10:15 every Tuesday and an 11:15 every Tuesday.
I think she told me the other day, I was asking how many kids she had one morning or something, and she said, I don't remember the exact number, 14 or something. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And she was like, that's the lowest number I've had. Yeah. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. One day she was on vacation or something and wasn't here for some reason. And Sandy had to do toddler time. And I came in, of course, a little bit later in the afternoon and met her going back, packing everything up. And she looked so tired, pleasantly tired, but exhausted.
Yeah.
And I was like, Are you okay? Has it been a long day? And she just looked over at me and said, we had 55 kids for toddler time.
God.
And it was the first time she'd done it, so here she was,
and
left to do it by herself.
While Jess wasn't here, the highest number probably that we've had. That's hilarious.
So yeah, it's been pretty consistent. Folks have shown up for every program. And I mean, last year, I think our total registration for the entire summer reading program did not break 300.
Really?
Maybe? Yeah. It was 200 and change, 200 and something.
Wow.
And we've already got 400 people, and it's not even the end of week 2.
Look what you guys did.
Yeah, this is awesome. You guys are knocking it out of the park. And speaking of which, of course, if you're not signed up for summer reading, definitely do that, because you can do that by stopping by in person at either of our circulation desks. You can call us, our number, 606-784-7137, or you can visit the website at rowancountylibrary.org/summer-reading. And it's on TV, it's on the radio, it's in the newspaper. You can find this everywhere. Go there and you can sign up using our online form as well. And then you can stop by and pick up your reading log and your activity bag. And we have printed schedules for you. We have information about the KY Saves 529 scholarship, which is being done in partnership with KDLA again this year, which is awesome. So that means that if a child is signed up for summer reading and participates, they can also register for a chance to win a savings plan for college, thanks to Kia and KDLA. And then, there's going to be one winner per district. It could be you. All you have to do is participate in summer reading for a chance to win. That's it. And we have an insert about that in the schedule booklet. So when you sign up, you will get information about that too.
I think we said before when we talked about, summer reading coming up, there really is just no reason not to sign up. You have absolutely nothing to lose, especially if you're already reading. If you're already reading, all you have to do is track it, and then you get free stuff. So who doesn't want that, first of all? But if you're not already reading, maybe this would be a good motivator for you to get into it.
Yeah.
And maybe find something new that you enjoy, and we'll be here all summer. So
absolutely. And we can't emphasize enough, graphic novels count, magazines count,
audiobooks count, everything. And it doesn't, if you've got kids that are too young to read and you're reading to them, they don't have to read clearly on their own for their books to count. So
Yep. If you read with them, that counts.
anything counts.
Yep. So get out and get started. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain because, of course, we have gift cards and things like that you can win for individual programs like the beach party themed on-board board game programs that we're having in June and July. You can win gift cards to Kaiju Games down on Main Street, Moorhead, our wonderful local board game and card game shop, tabletops. And there are, I think it's a Walmart gift card that you can win for our chalk art contest, which is coming up. There is a grand prize that you can win. It's a gift card to Coffee Tree Books. So, I mean, there are no losers here. Oh, and we have a surprise additional grand prize.
But like, you're just gonna have to visit us to see that one. Sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come to programs if you actually attend a certain minimum number of programs in person. If you come to them and show up, or in the case of things like our Newport Aquarium Shark Watch Party, of course, attendance counts virtually as well. If you use the link and show up and watch, then you could be entered to win something that'll make a really big splash when you put it in the water. And that's all I'll say about that. So,
but basically, like, at the very least, you're going to get free books at the end of the summer. Everybody gets free books at the end of the summer. Yeah. So just do it.
Just do it. Just read.
Just insert Shia LaBeouf here.
Yeah. Just
do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. And we've been reading ourselves, of course, because y'all know that a librarian can't keep their hands off of a book. It's a problem.
Especially during summer reading. We're like probably, I would say it's legally binding. We're not allowed to not sign up for summer reading.
Right.
And we can't not read during summer reading.
It feels like you have to participate.
We've been reading.
Which it's a good thing that I want to be here participating. So, and that I'm going to read anyway, because look at all of these benefits. Have we sold you yet? Are you sold?
Are you on your way here?
Are you signed up?
Good.
Yeah, get registered.
You better be.
Get registered. So we have some displays set up. Of course, we have a wonderful gardening display. We have all kinds of books about growing things, whether that's houseplants, whether that's edible plants, whether that's herbs, fruits. If you want to plant some trees, some decorative flowers. Jessica has picked out some really great books along with the help of our wonderful Cirque staff. And we have a whole shelf for you to get started gardening. I've been looking at a few of those because I've been meaning to put in a garden every year since I had my house built, and I have not done it. And there's always been some excuse. At first it's like, well, we just built a house. I'm kind of out of money at the moment. And then it was, well, we just rearranged the house. We just got a whole house full of furniture. I'm very tired from moving large objects. And then for quite a number of years in a row, it became, climate change is real. It is 115 degrees every day. It has been raining since April. It's November now. Too late to plan anything, and I wouldn't if I had the energy. So this summer, I'm like, nah, I'm doing it.
You have to.
Yeah, well, because it's become the ground state of things to not do it. So I have to change that. Now I'm fighting against myself because procrastination has become the default. So I'm trying to get inspired because I find that like that helps me. I love cookbooks, for example, and I'm very picky about which ones I like. Well, not super picky, but picky in that the ones that don't have pictures don't speak to me.
Absolutely, same. I feel like a child about cookbooks, to be honest.
Yeah, it needs to be a picture book. And so what I have discovered about myself is that when it comes to something crafty, if it's something I'm going to do with my hands rather than a story that I'm enjoying, if it's an instruction manual, pictures are really helpful for me because they inspire me. If I can see what the end product is going to look like, it gets me excited about doing the thing. So modern gardening books have really helped me because I can see what this flower is going to look like when it blooms. I can see what this photogenic orchard looks like that someone set out in their yard and so forth. So I see someone working on something and it's like, oh, I could do that. And it makes me actually get up and do the thing. So these books have been very helpful for me, and I'm hoping that I will read enough of them that, with each one that I finish, I get a step closer to the door. Eventually, I will make my way outside and all the way to the shed. And then I will turn some dirt over and put some seeds in the ground.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I'm glad that makes one of us. I regret to inform you that this is my best.
You have to do it. I have to live vicariously through you because I'm in my mid-20s, which means that I can't afford a house. Mm-hmm. So I rent my house, so I can't plant a garden, which means that you have to plant a garden for both of us.
Oh no, peer pressure. The only thing that my weak spot for massive damage. Well, see, now I have to do it. That's the thing. I'll break a promise to myself, but if I promise somebody else something, then I have to do it. So it's like, oh, now I've got to go. I've got to stop at Lowe's on the way home and pick out shrubs. I'm going to pick out starts and bulbs and things. So, yeah, Jeff, definitely check out if you are also a visual learner or just need some help getting motivated. Stop by and check out our wonderful garden books display. Check out our Juneteenth display. We'll be talking more about that next time because this next episode of the podcast will go up right around Juneteenth. But we have a great display up that talks about the history of racial inequality in America, the history of the Black American and struggles that they faced to get here, the origins of the holiday of Juneteenth and how it has been celebrated since its origins in 1865, and how it's being celebrated now that it's actually a federally recognized holiday where government workers actually get the day off and banks are closed, and the things that we still need to do, that we still need to work on. And a lot of books about hope and progress. So if you need some inspiration, if you're interested in the history, that's a very topical situation right now. It touches on a lot of hot button issues, a lot of controversy, going on in our society that these books really will delve into or help to illuminate for you if you are confused about some of them. If maybe you don't understand where some of the tension, some of the stress and the disagreement comes from, then stop by, check out some of our Juneteenth display, and it can be very educational. And of course, we also have a wonderful Pride Month display up, as we have been doing for the last several years. I am so glad to see some of the ones that were chosen because we have a great spread of both fiction and nonfiction and just regular written text and also graphic novels. I actually stopped by our display and picked out a sort of semi-graphic novel myself. I guess, what did you call it? A graphic memoir?
A graphic bio.
A graphic bio.
Yeah. I actually have not personally read it, but I did. You're all welcome. Pull every single book that's on that display. I have a problem.
The problem is there's never enough time to read all the books.
The problem is that if you asked me for a cumulative list of every book in our catalog that could go on the Pride display, I could tell you all of them. However, the number of them that I've read is maybe a 10th of the total. Because I don't have time for that. So, this is...
Well, and also we're lucky to have quite a few.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just I could recommend you a lot of mystery books or fantasy books or sci-fi all day
Anything.
Long. But have I read all of the ones that we have?
No.
Goodness, no. We have over 80,000 books. That's not even... I don't think that's counting the large print. I think we just have 80,000 in fiction,
yeah.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
84, 85, something like that.
Shockingly, this is one that I still have not had time to read, but I really want to. It looks great, and I guess you have a little more insight on that, considering that you did read it. So
yeah,
how was it?
So The Times I Knew I Was Gay by Eleanor Crewes, Crewes. I should clarify because we were just talking about Miss September cruising through the library, and that's a little bit different, not the same kind of cruise. It was really a delightful read, and it was very quick too. It's sort of a hybrid genre that... What's the best way to describe it? I think perhaps what prepared me best for this is actually reading online comic strips.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, reading web comics. Because I am used to a book either having text and no pictures, or the text is part of the pictures,
right.
Like a graphic novel where you have speech bubbles and things, Or in the case of things like, for example, old Sherlock Holmes anthologies, right? You will have text and then occasionally you will have a picture. A lot of epic fantasy novels will have sections of the book broken up with maps of where the adventuring party is in this part of the story. So this one's a little bit different because there are pages that are drawings. It's all hand drawn with pencil even. With speech bubbles that tell part of the story. And then there are pages that have an illustration that is framed by text, or the text is maybe almost like a caption above or below the picture.
Wow.
And then sometimes you will also have pages where you have an image on one side and then text on the other. And so it's a format that I was not really familiar with, but it flows really well, and it felt like I was reading a webcomic, almost in one of those vertical scrolling formats, because of the way the content is displayed. So it's the same way that you would start looking at something and your eye kind of carries you organically on to the next either illustration or speech bubble.
Right.
It was a pleasure to read. Now, I'm a quick reader, of course, but depending, your mileage may vary. It took me about an hour or so to get through it with interruptions. And that is in large part due to the fact that the text is spaced apart. So even though it looks like a very thick book, it is a very quick read because so much of it is just illustration.
Sure. I don't think that I have ever read something in this format either. Like you were saying, I was already interested to read it just from the cover and just having read a little blurb about it. But now I think that I am even more interested because it is going to be, as an experience, something completely new to me. So
it certainly was for me. I've never read a book quite like this, and it was a pleasure to experience something new. And it was also just a pleasure to read because she's a good storyteller. This began, I think it says in the foreword, as a hand-stitched 10-page zine that she did as a teenager.
Oh, wow.
Or as a younger person. And she hand delivered it to bookstores in her area so that they would carry it.
Right, that's incredible.
Yeah, so she was self-published at first and then got picked up and it became a real book. And now she's a professional illustrator and she does other stuff. And this is kind of her origin story. And it was really touching. It was very open and conversational, which I loved. It was delivered in a format I felt thumbing through this book like Eleanor Cruz was just kind of sitting there telling me this story. And her style of illustration, for me at least, was very much like, how we all have that one friend who is a storyteller and they've got body language and facial expressions, and it doesn't matter if they're just telling you about their day or about this weird thing that happened in the grocery store. It becomes a performance.
Absolutely.
And they convey so much more telling you this story than they would if they just wrote it down for you. If they were texting you about it or something. In person, it's different. And that's what this felt like. I felt like with her illustrations and the very organic nature of how the story unfolds and how it's explained and the fact that it's told in first person really brought it to life for me in quite a literal way. I felt like I was there with her as she was talking about growing up and about how from a young age she felt like there was something about herself that she didn't know yet. And the way she describes it is like she got a letter. Almost kind of like your Hogwarts letter,
okay.
Right? She got a letter that had a secret in it. And she always felt like the secret was going to be how to live her best life or how to be happy. And she never opened the letter because the letter would tell her when it was time. Was kind of the sensation that she got. And she kept getting close to it. There were all these moments where she felt like, is today the day? Is this it? Am I going to open the letter and find the secret? And then it wasn't. And that's why the title is The Times, plural, I Knew I Was Gay, because she talks about how the misconception that a lot of folks have that coming out, whether that is to other people or whether that is, in many cases, to yourself. Because, of course, it's sad that we have a society that causes you to deny that even in yourself as well and maybe lie to yourself or misunderstand. In her case, she just didn't know. And she mentions how, like, it's not her parents' fault. They were very supportive when she finally discovered herself as a lesbian. And they raised her in a heterosexual household because they were heterosexual.
Of course.
And her older brother is straight. And so that's just what they did, and they didn't even think about it. And she said she really connected with Willow's character on Buffy the Vampire Slayer from a fairly young age. And eventually, of course, you reach that point in Buffy the Vampire Slayer where Willow is discovering her own sexuality and gets into a relationship with another character named Tara, who is also a woman. And everyone just took that in stride, and it was fine, and nothing negative was said about it as she was growing up by her parents or anything like that. But it was also, they were engaging a work of fiction. Buffy's a fantasy world, and when you turn the TV off after you've watched that week's episode of Buffy, the fantasy's over. So they just didn't really talk about Willow and Tara's relationship outside of Buffy. And so it took her a very long time to realize that the main thing that she had in common with Willow, her favorite media character, was her relationship with Tara. And so it took her a long time to really discover herself, to open that special letter, because, as I said, a lot of people misconstrue coming out as a singular occurrence. And for many people, that's not the case. For many people, it is multiple times in multiple ways. Some people, you never stop. I've heard this said by people wiser than I. You never really stop coming out of the closet because you are always having to make the decision, due to the way that our society works. Each time that you meet a new person, do you tell them or do you not tell them? How do you tell them? When do you tell them? And that's because many of us are trained, all of us are really trained to have a certain reaction and to expect a certain reaction because of that. And so there are times where you go, this person's only going to be in my life for a moment, and it's going to be more hassle than it's worth. I'm just not going to say anything. They don't need to know. I don't need to bother them with it. And the fact that you feel like it's a bother, because they're going to bother you back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you just, like, maybe we just won't mention it this time. Maybe we just won't say anything to this person. And then other times, you have to tense up. You're going to have to tell somebody, and it's almost like ripping off a Band-Aid. Like, let's just get it done quick. It's not gonna be pleasant, but we have to have this conversation, because then, like, eventually it's gonna come out on its own. So I might as well come out on my own terms.
Or it's going to look like it was a secret. I was hiding something from this person. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it always winds up being, like, more trouble than it should be. And for many people, it's a negative experience. The fact that the closet exists and that so many people are in it is indicative of the negative environment that we have built, because, of course, like we all know, you don't have to come out of the closet if you're straight. You don't have to come out of the closet if you're cisgender. You don't have to tell your parents that, I'm so sorry. It's just so hard to say it. I was born a woman, and I feel like I am one. And your parents are sitting there looking at you like, yes. And
go on.
And you felt like you needed to share this why. That's just not something that's necessary. And so she discusses how she came out to her friends once and then kind of immediately walked it back because she got scared of saying it out loud. And so she retreated very aggressively into, like, oh boy, I sure do love boys. Let's look at boys on Tinder and date them a lot. Mm-hmm. Oh, isn't he a dreamboat? And over the next couple years, she came out 5 separate times before she finally did it once and for all, and came out basically to herself. And that was the problem, was that she was always walking it back because she was not fully absorbing it. And then eventually, through her lived experience, she got to a point where she circled back around to that letter with the secret in it, and she finally felt like she had opened it when she met the right person. It was like, oh, this is it. This is the piece I've been missing. And I think the sweetest part of it is actually towards the end of the book. She talks about having regrets. She talks about once she had finally figured herself out and had decided that she was comfortable with being who she is, she had these inevitable thoughts of, well, what did I miss? What am I never going to experience now because I lived so long without understanding this part of myself or denying this part of myself? What would have been different if I had known and if I had embraced it? Would I be better? Would things have gone better for me? Would I have had fewer negative experiences? Would my life be different, and how? And I think everybody, whenever you go through a major life change, has those experiences.
Absolutely.
Whether you're talking about like a marriage or a divorce, whether you're talking about going to a place that really moves you and leaves a mark on you, checking something off of your bucket list, any kind of major life milestone, you go, wow, what if I had done this sooner? And her attitude towards that is to defy the notion of regret and to be like, no, you know what? I just have to be myself as hard as I can now to make up for lost time.
That really is the only healthy, sustainable way to look at that situation.
Yeah, like let's not linger on what could have been. Let's enjoy what we have now, and let's be ourselves as hard as we can. And I think that that is a beautiful message in general, but also it really strikes at the heart of Pride Month. A lot of folks don't fully understand, partly because it's been heavily commercialized in recent years, exactly what Pride Month is about. And that's part of it. It's a wake for people who have been lost in the community to things like the HIV/AIDS crisis, but also to hate crimes. And it is a demonstration to show other people they're not alone, because that's the most powerful thing that there is. When you stand up and say, I'm here, and this is me, and I'm like this, and I believe in equality, I believe in civil rights, I believe in, your right to be yourself and to live authentically, then that does two things. First of all, the person sitting next to you who might not have stood up if someone else hadn't stood up first, now they're going to be encouraged to do that. And secondly, the person who, for whatever reason, is in a situation where they can't stand up and do that and say those things, they feel supported and they feel like they have friends and allies and a community. Even if they feel isolated from those things, they know that it's there and they realize that they're not alone, and that can give people hope, and that can give people something that they need to keep them going and keep them surviving in an oppressive environment. And I think that that's very, very important. And we see that, like just last month, we saw that with Jewish American Heritage Month, another oppressed community. We saw that with Mental Health Awareness Month, because mental health is so heavily stigmatized in our society, slowly becoming less so, but still heavily stigmatized. And I think just being open and having a frank, honest discussion about it, and seeing yourself represented in media like this, even if it's for a brief time once a year, it tells people, hey, you're here, you're real, we believe you, there's nothing wrong with you, and you're not alone. There are others like you. And whether you are asexual or demi-romantic or transgender or bisexual or whatever, like, that's very important to just have someone else say, like, it's not just you. These are real things. We're here for you specifically. We can be together. We can do this together. If you need help, like, you're not alone. So it was a really great read, and it felt like a perfect touchstone piece of media, I think, for Pride Month. She says in the foreword, I don't know if this would have changed my life if I'd had access to this book when I was, the age that I needed these questions answered. But I hope that someone else who maybe has questions like I did, or who is uncertain of themselves like I was, if they find this book, that maybe it does something positive for them. And I think that that's a very sweet encapsulation of the whole message.
Absolutely. And, that's what we're here for, to offer that access to people. So come check it out.
Absolutely. And we've got a whole collection just like that, from which you have also checked something out.
I have, in fact. I'm not sure if anyone knows this or not, but I don't really read nonfiction.
No.
I don't know how many times we've had this conversation on this podcast. But surprise, surprise, I read another fiction novel, And it was glorious. It was genuinely the first. Let me tell you, there's something about when you've gone your entire life, or so I hear, producing testosterone naturally, you can like still regulate your emotions. Like you've learned how to do that.
Oh no, that's a myth. Men are not encouraged to do that.
Well, no, of course they're not encouraged to do it.
We can. We're just not told it's our responsibility.
Physically, you're capable.
Yeah.
When you produce it naturally, whereas when it's lab grown, it does this thing to your poor little brain that like shuts down all of your emotional receptors. Like you don't feel anything anymore, right? Except when I read this book, I cried, like openly wept like 3 separate times.
You feel nothing until you feel everything all at once, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't feel anything
there you
anymore.
Go.
So
see, now you've got that sweet male emotional repression.
Oh,
You've got
I love
it down pat.
I love it.
I feel nothing until I have to feel everything, and I have no choice, and then it's all going to come out at one time.
So happy to be here.
It's going to be everyone's problem.
And then like that never happened.
Yeah,
So,
5 minutes later, what are you talking about?
You want to go get a burger, bro?
Bruh.
Yeah. Anyway, this book was great. It's
It's a really good book.
It's a really good book. It made me feel a lot of stuff.
Made me feel my own feelings.
It is called The Darkness Outside Us. It is by an author named Elliot Schreifer. I have been referring to the title, however, as Space Gaze since I read it, because spoiler alert, it's about gays in space. And
I just want to break in here to say this was one of the ones that is on Atlanta's recommendation list on the blog post.
It is
because that's where I recognize the title from.
It won a Stonewall Award. So, like, it's actually good. I'm not just, like, throwing some trash romance at you. I am.
Yeah, it's not like the remaking of Corbin Well.
Don't. We're not going to talk about Rowan Parrish. Don't read Rowan Parrish.
I love you, Rowan Parrish.
Don't read Rowan Parrish.
I hate that I love you, but I do.
But if you do, like, come talk to us about it, because we also read Rowan Parrish. But don't. We're not recommending it, though. But, like, do it. But don't. Anyway, so Space Gaze. There's actually not a lot that I can tell you about it as far as the actual story goes without ruining everything. It's one of those books, unfortunately.
Oh no.
And I didn't know that going into it, or I would not have chosen it for the podcast recommendation that I was going to make.
To be featured.
Yeah.
Tell us what you can.
What I can tell you is that it is from the perspective of a boy who is kind of... Okay, so let me actually backtrack for a second. So the entire world only has 2 countries now. That's like where we're at. It's very futuristic. Also like
a dystopian classic.
Believable. Yeah. And of course they're still like very much at odds with each other, because when we get down to 2 countries left in the world, of course they will be.
Yeah. That's why there will be 2.
Exactly. That's why there will be 2 and not 1. We're never getting Pangea back. Okay. It's not happening. But it is from the perspective of one guy who is kind of a big name on one of these 2 countries, because his family is really well renowned as far as like the whole space situation goes. And that's like where everybody's at right now, right? Like it's like a thing. Like you do space, like the way that like kind of the way that like we do the military, but bigger.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Because there's only 2 countries left. So like, what are they gonna do? Where else is there to go?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
And what are they gonna compete about?
We're dying out. Exactly. So this guy's name is Ambrose Cusk, and his whole family, they're kind of known as like the Cusk Corporation. Like they make all of these big fancy spaceships, and all of this, equipment is theirs, and all of these mission plans are theirs, and whatever.
Okay.
And the deal is that his sister, Minerva, was sent off into space on this mission to I believe it's one of Saturn's moons. Is Titan one of Saturn's moons? Okay.
Yeah, that's Saturn.
So she's sent there to find out whether or not there is a potential for people to inhabit that area, like if
Whether-
it's sustainable for human life and development and whatever.
Like a colony survey.
Right, essentially that. But something happens while she's on this mission and she loses communication. So what Ambrose is doing, what he's sent out for, is a rescue mission to Titan to see if Minerva is still alive, see if he can bring her home, whatever. So he wakes up on this ship called the Coordinated Endeavor. It's one of his ships, one of the Cusk ships. He doesn't have any memory of actually boarding and taking off.
Oh.
He doesn't remember what's going on. He doesn't remember what this mission is that he's on. So he wakes up to the operating system in the ship speaking to him. And of course, because it's so futuristic, the artificial intelligence is just chef's kiss at this point, right? So like they've got it coded with his mom's voice. So it's pretty much just like his mom's talking to him the whole time. I guess they're like, well, he's going to listen to his mom, you know? So anyway, he wakes up and the OS is telling him, like, this is what's going on. You passed out at takeoff. You may have forgotten some stuff. No big deal. And so he gets up and he's walking around kind of exploring the ship a little bit. He's done a lot of practicing, a lot of training on ships very similar to this model because they're all the same ship. It's all his family's like blueprint, and he's a spacefarer, right? So they're space cadets. That's like what people do now. And he was the one that was chosen for this mission because he's Minerva's brother. There's actually a point that he says that there was a little bit of an outcry about this because Democratia, I assume, is how it's supposed to be pronounced, and then the Federation. And those are the two countries that are left, and he is from the Federation. And women tend to be much more prolific spacefarers there, which is why Minerva was chosen for the mission that she went on. And so people were pretty mad that they were going to send this little 17-year-old boy out to do this mission, to save Minerva. And they're like, it's his sister. Like, he's got to go get his sister, okay? Calm down. Everybody chill out. But anyway, he's been on a lot of ships like this before, essentially in training that he's done and stuff. So he's just like walking around exploring and making sure that he remembers everything correctly. And then he comes to this portal that he's not familiar with. He's talking to the operating system, and that's how he, gets around, and all of his commands run through OS. So he tells it to open the door. Mm-hmm. And it just says, your request is being processed. And he's like, well, what does that mean? Because, like, you're supposed to, like, listen to me, And the OS is like, yeah, but opening the door would require permission. And Ambrose is like, okay, I'm giving you permission. Open the door. And the OS is like, no, not permission from you. And Ambrose is like, okay, permission from whomst? And OS is like, yeah, that guy over there. And Ambrose is like, excuse me, what? Huh? What guy over where?
Elaborate.
Excuse. And he's like, are you telling me right now that there's somebody behind there and that I'm not on this ship by myself? And OS is like, yeah, so anyway, we're going to talk about something else now because, like, we don't need to do this. Like, this is not important. And he's like, okay, it's important. So we eventually come to terms with the fact that he's not there alone, but the guy on the other side of the ship, which is actually a separate ship that's been connected to his ship, it's a Democratia ship. And dude over there doesn't want anything to do with Ambrose because he's just the little Federation Cusk prince, and he's all high and mighty and whatever. So they don't meet for a little while. And then finally, Ambrose tells OS, just tell him that I want him to come have dinner with me once. Like, we need to meet. We're doing this mission together. We are going to have to communicate with each other or it's never going to work. Because the entire time, there's this list of tasks on the ship that they're supposed to be completing. There are different things that need repairs, updates, all of this stuff, or they're not going to be able to make it to Titan. And they've got to do it together. Neither one of them can do all of this on their own. So they're going to have to communicate at some point. So finally, Kodiak Celius leaves his little corner of the world.
What a name.
And comes out to meet Ambrose. And immediately, Ambrose is like, oh, okay, well, I got to be like on this ship with somebody for an indeterminate amount of time. Like, at least I want to look at him, you know?
Oh no, he's hot.
Oh no, he's hot. Pretty much that. Which, like, according to Ambrose, that wouldn't have been difficult. They could have stuck him with pretty much anyone and he would have been happy, visually at least. He's just kind of here for it all, you know, which is like, we stand a king. Me too, my guy. But he's happy to see Kodiak, finally, is what I'm getting at here. And Mans is still pretty standoffish at first. He doesn't really want anything to do with Ambrose because of the differences in their politics, shall we say. But eventually, of course, everybody knows the forced proximity trope is the way to go in an enemies to lovers story, right?
I was about to, at the beginning of this, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like a star-crossed lovers kind of. You have one person from Democratia and one from the Federation. They want to be together and nobody else wants to let them be. It's like, oh, no, these guys hate each other until they don't.
Yeah, well, see, so Ambrose very much represents, like, the privileged white guy that, like, doesn't know why the less privileged, less white guy hates him.
Oh, okay. What do they call it? Affluenza.
Affluenza, absolutely. He's like, hey, there's another guy on this ship. I want to be his friend. And Kodiak's like, no, I literally hate you and everything that you stand for.
And Ambrose has no idea why.
Ambrose is like, okay, well, why? And and Kodiak's like, well, this is your family and you're a stuck-up little brat and here are your ideals and this is what you think about people who have less than you and whatever. And he's like, oh,
when you just say it like that, it does sound kind of bad.
Well, when you put it like that, I suck. But you know, eventually, what are you gonna do when you're stuck on a spaceship with somebody? Like, you've got to build a relationship of some kind at some point, right?
Like my guy, we've got nothing to do for X number of light years.
Like, we don't even know how long.
But play Dungeons and Dragons, so we have got to get along.
So, you know, eventually they get along, and then they get along, and they start making their repairs, and during this time they start kind of exploring the ship together, and they end up maybe coming across some things that are a little less than by the book. Some stuff that they didn't expect to see, maybe some stuff that they don't understand.
Non-standard design decisions.
And it sort of just rabbit holes from that point into what are we really doing here? What's really going on?
Yeah, because see, my first question is, why is there a Democration ship attached to this Federation ship? Like, there's no reason for that when he was on a rescue mission for his sister. See, now I really want to read this for the mystery because you've said this and the things you have said. Now I have theories.
Exactly.
About
so
the rabbit hole.
I can't tell you anything else. Literally a single step further would ruin the entire story.
Oh, well, you've told me enough to hook me.
So you've got to read it now. You have to read it.
You have to read it.
Find out
to read it.
What happens and why there are some things on the ship that are, like, not quite standard and what's really going on out there. So just come get it. It's here. Check it out.
Yeah, well, I'll race you for it. Because you best believe that I'm going to waitlist myself for that immediately if it's not available for check-in. See, there's so many good choices on this display and on this shelf. And even though it's not every book in the library that covers the relevant subjects.
We couldn't fit them all on the display, okay?
Yeah, no, I tried the first year that we did it. And
sure did.
We ran out of shelf space really quick. Well, everyone was so helpful, you know, because I'd never done a display before. And I thought, well, okay, you know, I'll just start pulling books and sitting them out on the shelf. And then everybody was like, ooh, you should put this one out there. And suddenly my desk had 250 books on it. And I was like, ooh, I was kind of thinking like 30 maybe.
Well, that's how many there are this year. So it's a little bit more tailored this time, maybe.
It is, but that also tells you, like, we work hard to whittle it down because it could always be bigger. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the gardening display, the Juneteenth display, or the Pride Month display. There could always be more books in that collection. So.
Our summer reading display, because our theme this year is an ocean of possibilities, right? Our summer reading display that's at the very forefront of the library right now, it could be absolutely massive because it's just books about water, right? Like it's anything pertaining to the ocean, pirates, sea creatures, anything like that. It is, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Hence the name.
So if there's something that you are looking for or that you think you might be interested in that you don't see on that display that pertains to the ocean or summer or anything along those lines, ask us for it because I promise you we have it. We just don't have the display space to put everything out.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, too, that's just on the ocean side of the theme. The rest of the theme is possibilities, which means it ties into all of this other stuff. So even the gardening display.
Absolutely.
Think of the possibilities. You could plant anything. You know, you can grow whatever you want. The Juneteenth display, there's so many possibilities about like where we can go forward from here and make things better. And the Pride Month display, all the possibilities that you can discover about yourself and about your community and, you know, all the answers to these potential questions that maybe you have. So it all comes back to summer reading. You can come to any of these displays, choose any of these books or any of this media because it's not just books.
It's not just books.
I do want to stress, like for example, in the Pride display, we have Mass Effect collection, very famous game series for better or worse. Listen, as someone who loves Mass Effect, I have my opinions about the ending of Mass Effect 3 that I'm not going to go into here because other people have written doctoral thesis length reviews of that ending. But when Mass Effect first came out, no pun intended, it really pushed the envelope because in the very first game, there was the possibility of a same-gender romance. And that was something that had appeared in video games before, for sure. But it was the first time that it had really been a marketing point for a AAA title. So like it, love it, hate it, it's a landmark title for sure. And it is worth playing, certainly. It really is. So it's not just books. There are TV series, there are movies, there are audiobooks, there's music, there's all kinds of stuff. There are oceans of possibilities.
I know that we've got Dragon Age out there as well.
Oh yeah, because that's made by the same people as
Mass Effect. Yep. And Atlanta was saying, I know that she loves Dragon Age and that it was kind of eye-opening to her that there are certain characters in that game that you don't get offered a romance option with them unless you are playing a certain gender. So like there are NPCs that have sexualities that are specific to them, and that's something really cool that we don't see very often in that type of media, especially.
Yeah, because that's another point of critical discussion is that some video games have tried to cash in on this idea of, well, I won't cash in, that sounds bad. They've tried to capitalize on the idea of everyone who is a potential romance partner is like protagonist sexual. If you are the main character and they are interested in you if you do the right things, regardless of who you are, because you are the main character.
Right.
And that's great, and there's something positive to be said for that. But I also think that there's something very positive to be said for the idea that not everyone is just magically bisexual or pansexual when it comes to your character, that instead there are characters who are gay, or they are straight, or they are lesbian, or they are asexual. In the case of like the Outer Worlds, for example, there is an asexual homoromantic character who's a very good character, Parvati. And I think that needs to be in these games, because if everyone is just interested in the main character for who they are, then it's not like it loses all meaning, but it loses a lot of depth, because that's not how things are in real life. People are a spectrum.
Absolutely.
People exist on a spectrum. And so our media should as well. So wherever you fall on that spectrum, we wish you a very happy Pride Month. We hope to see you here at the library throughout all of June and July for summer reading, and anytime that you want to come by and visit us.
Yeah, please don't stop coming in after summer reading. Don't do
that. That's the one thing. Don't use summer reading as an excuse to come and then stop when school starts in August. Don't do that. Listen.
We want to see you.
We want to see you all the time. We want to see you all the time. Don't stop coming to the library. You have to come. You have to be here. So we will see you when we see you, and that will be hopefully before the next episode of the podcast comes out. Don't forget, check out our website, rowancountylibrary.org, and you can find all of the information about summer reading and all of our programs and stuff on there. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, Instagram, YouTube, and we'll catch you next time. I'm Morgan.
I'm Emery.
And this has been The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library.